Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we'll dive into a heartfelt story about Huyen and Diep, two ordinary people who share an extraordinary warmth in their simple life together. From a gentle rainy morning in the garden to a cozy family lunch filled with laughter and love, every moment reminds us that happiness is sometimes just being together. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next stories. Let me take you back to... At the school gate, he bent down and kissed her forehead. "Be good, okay? I'll pick you up when class is over." Maya turned around and waved as she ran inside, her hair fluttering in the breeze. That simple moment, her small hand waving goodbye, lingered in Ye's mind longer than usual. He didn't know why, but something in his chest felt uneasy. Back at home, Huyen was already in the kitchen. The smell of cooked corn filled the little house, warm and comforting. Yi joined her to finish their weekend project, putting up a new wooden gate. The sound of the hammer and saw blended with their laughter and the sound of the wind brushing against the thatched roof. "Are you going to hang flower pots here too?" Huyen asked softly. "Of course," Ye said, nailing another plank into place. "I want her to hear the bells every morning before school, to know that we're always here, waiting for her to come home." Huyen smiled. It was the kind of quiet, content smile that makes you think nothing could ever go wrong. But somewhere else in the village, that peaceful morning had already started to crumble. Outside the school gate stood Maya's grandfather. His hair was snow white now, and deep lines etched his face. He hadn't seen his granddaughter in years, hadn't even dared to, after everything his son had done. But that morning, something stronger than shame brought him there. Maybe love, maybe guilt, maybe both. From her seat by the window, Maya looked up from her drawing when she heard someone softly call her name. She blinked in surprise. There he was, an old man with kind eyes, though they seemed heavy with sorrow. "Do you remember me, little one?" he asked, voice trembling. Maya tilted her head. "Hello, grandfather. Why are you here?" He took a deep breath, forcing a smile. "Your mom asked me to come pick you up. She's cooking and didn't want you to wait alone." The little girl's face lit up. Without hesitation, she packed her crayons and followed him. The car engine started, puffing out a cloud of white smoke into the cold air. But instead of turning toward home, the car veered the other way, down a narrow road lined with bare, leafless trees. "Grandpa, where are we going?" Maya asked, curious. He hesitated, his voice trembling slightly. "We're just going to buy you a little present first. Then, we'll visit an old friend of mine." Maya smiled, trusting as ever. A few miles later, they stopped by a small roadside shop. Grandpa bought her a packet of candy and a bottle of milk. She tore the wrapper happily while he knelt beside her, his hand trembling as it stroked her hair. "Maya, my dear," he whispered, "today I want you to meet someone very special." The car moved again, and the sky outside began to darken. Through the window, Maya saw tall gray walls topped with barbed wire. Strange men in uniforms walked silently behind fences. Her smile faded. "Grandpa, what is this place? I don't like it. I want to go home to Mommy." "Don't be scared," he said, his voice cracking. "We'll just see someone for a few minutes, then I'll take you home. I promise." At the gate, a guard flipped through a notebook. "Who are you visiting?" The old man swallowed hard. come to see Tuc, my son." The moment she heard that name, Maya froze. She didn't know it, but deep down, it felt familiar somehow. She remembered once catching her mother crying silently over an old photo, whispering that same name before hiding it away. The heavy iron door opened with a creak. A thin man in a gray prison uniform stepped out. His face was gaunt, eyes hollow, but when he saw Maya, his expression lit up with emotion. "Maya, my daughter," he whispered, his voice shaking. Maya took a step back, frightened. "No, Grandpa, that man's bad. I want to go home to Uncle Ye." "Maya, wait." Tuc's voice cracked as he reached out, but she pulled away, tears streaming down her face. "I don't like this place. I want my mom." A guard stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. He looked at the old man with sympathy. Grandfather's eyes filled with tears as he took Maya's trembling hand. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I just wanted you to meet your father, just once." Tuc stood there silently, tears welling in his eyes. He could feel every wall between them, the prison bars, the years of regret, the damage that couldn't be undone. He knew it wasn't just iron that separated them. It was every mistake he had ever made. Outside, the sky had turned completely gray. The wind howled through the trees as Maya clutched her teddy bear, sobbing. Her cries echoed across the empty courtyard, mixing with the sound of the cold wind through the barbed wire, a sound that could break even the hardest heart. Meanwhile, back at the little house, Ye hammered the last post into the new gate. He looked up at the sky, now thick with clouds, and felt a strange, sharp ache in his chest. Something was wrong. He put the tools down, went inside, and grabbed his jacket. "I'll go pick up Maya," he said. Huyen was sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. "I don't know why," she whispered, "but I feel uneasy about her today." Yi didn't wait to answer. He jumped on his motorcycle and sped toward the school. The road to the school had never felt so long. Ye's heart pounded against his chest as the engine roared through the wind. When he finally reached the gate, most of the children were already gone. The teacher was standing under the eaves, waiting. She looked startled when she saw him. "Mr. Ye, an old man came earlier. He said he was Maya's grandfather. He picked her up not long ago." Ye froze. For a second, it felt like the air had been sucked out of his lungs. The world around him dimmed, and all he could hear was the pounding of his own heartbeat. Without a word, he turned and sprinted back to his bike. The north wind whipped through the palm trees, scattering leaves across the empty street. Behind him, the new gate he'd left half-finished creaked softly in the breeze, like a sigh. Dark clouds rolled in. Rain started to fall. By the time Ye reached home, the storm had turned fierce. Huyen was pacing by the door, clutching Maya's little jacket to her chest. "She's not at school," Ye said breathlessly. "The teacher said an old man came for her, claimed to be your grandfather." Huyen's face went pale. Her lips trembled. How could he even know where she studies? We never told anyone." Ye's eyes widened in realization. He must have followed us, maybe when we weren't paying attention. He grabbed his keys again. "I'm going to find her." Rain poured down harder as he sped through the narrow roads. The cold wind slapped his face, but he didn't slow down. Every corner, every sound on that road made his heart twist tighter. Back home, Huyen sank to her knees in front of the fire. The flames flickered, but they didn't bring any warmth. "Maya," she whispered through tears, "don't be afraid, my little one. Mommy's waiting for you. Please, just come home." Her voice broke, blending with the rain, hammering on the tin roof. Suddenly, Ye's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled over, breathless, and answered. "Mr. Ye," said a voice from the local committee, muffled by static. "We just got a call from the district detention center. A little girl named Maya was brought there by an elderly man. He said they were visiting an inmate named Tieu." Ye froze. The phone slipped from his hands, landing in a puddle. Without hesitation, he turned his motorcycle around and raced through the storm. The road to the prison was muddy, the headlight flickering in the downpour like a trembling candle. Every splash of water felt like it was stealing seconds away from him. By the time he arrived, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. A heavy mist hung over the prison walls. There, in front of the gate, Ye saw them. An old man sat hunched over on a wooden bench, his arms wrapped around a little girl bundled in a blanket. Maya's eyes were closed, her lashes still wet with tears. Ye's steps were slow, his voice shaking with cold and anger. "Why did you do this?" he asked quietly. The old man looked up. His eyes were clouded, weary, filled with regret. "I just wanted her to see her father," he said, barely above a whisper. "Tuke misses her every day. He's sorry for everything." His jaw tightened. He glanced down at Maya, then back at the old man. "Do you have any idea how terrified she must have been? You call this love? Bringing a child here, to this place?" The old man's shoulders slumped. His voice broke. "I was wrong. I only wanted to make amends. For my son's sins. I didn't think it would turn out like this." When Ye returned home with Maya, Huyen ran out to meet them. She dropped everything and wrapped her arms around her daughter, crying uncontrollably. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She just held her little girl close, as if afraid she might vanish again. Maya was exhausted, her eyes still swollen from crying. He looked at the gate they had built that morning. It stood solid now, dark and sturdy against the damp air. He closed it gently. The soft click of the latch sounded like the end of something heavy, a promise that the worst was over. Inside, the fire crackled. Huyen rocked Maya in her arms until she drifted off to sleep. Yi sat quietly by the porch, looking toward the horizon where the rain clouds were starting to break apart. He knew storms would come again. Life would test them. But as long as they stood together, as long as that gate held firm, no winter would last forever. The next morning dawned clear. The rain had stopped. Dewdrops clung to the eaves, dripping softly onto the wet ground. Maya stirred in her sleep. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was her mother sitting beside the bed, her face still tired but calm. "Morning, sweetheart," Huyen whispered. "Did you sleep well?" Maya nodded sleepily, hugging her teddy bear. "Mom," she said after a pause, "I dreamt Grandpa was crying. Why was he sad?" Huyen froze for a moment. Then she smiled faintly, brushing Maya's hair aside. "Because he loves you very much," she said gently. "Sometimes, grown-ups do the wrong things, even when they think they're doing them out of love." Maya looked up at her with those clear, curious eyes. "So, will I ever see him again?" Huyen didn't answer right away. She pulled her daughter closer, feeling the soft warmth of her little hands, that innocent trust that still believed the world was simple. "Maybe one day," she said softly. "But for now, just stay here, with us." Later that morning, the house was filled with the smell of hot soup. Yi sat by the fire while Huyen handed him a bowl. "Eat something," she said, "and take Maya to school after. She needs a normal day again." Ye took the bowl, his voice hoarse. "I was thinking about the old man last night," he murmured. "Maybe he wasn't bad, just broken. Maybe he carried too much pain." Huyen sat beside him, staring at the flames. "I know," she whispered. "He lost everything, his son, his pride. I just hope Maya won't have to understand that kind of pain." "She won't," Ye said, looking toward the new wooden gate outside. "We'll teach her differently, with love, not resentment." Outside, the early winter light poured gently through the open window. The gate stood firm, quiet, simple, strong, a symbol of everything they'd been through. Because no matter how harsh the storm, love, when it's real, always finds a way to bring you home. On a quiet winter morning, little Maya sets off for school, unaware that her day will take a shocking turn. A visit from her grandfather, carrying promises of warmth and gifts, leads her instead to a place she never imagined, a prison where her father, Tieu, is held. Fear, confusion, and innocent trust collide as Maya faces a world beyond her understanding, while Dieu and Huyen rush to protect her. Between tears, heartfelt apologies, and silent regrets, the story explores the fragile threads of love, forgiveness, and family bonds. Will the past heal, or will it leave scars that last forever? And as Maya clings to the ones she trusts most, one question remains: can innocence and love truly mend a broken family? Join us to discover the answer and witness the next chapter of their lives.